Welcome to Real Estate of Mind, a Farming Group podcast. Welcome to another edition of Real Estate of Mind. I'm Andy Gutman, and I'm here today with the legendary Dennis Bernard of the Bernard Financial Group, just hanging out in the Bernard hot tub and enjoying a beautiful glass of wine. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate being here and being associated with the Farming Group. Andy Farman, Andy Gutman, and the rest of the Farming Group really is a pleasure.
Wow, that's really nice of you to say and so genuine. Well, welcome. So, Dennis, welcome again. First question, obviously, you are so well known in our community. You are the go-to guy for financing. There's probably 5 people out of our 20,000 person listenership that may not know your history or about Bernard Financial Group, but for those 5 people, will you do us a favor? Tell us a little bit about how you got your start and when and how you formed Bernard Financial Group.
I can't believe it's only 5. I would think it would be closer to 10, but happy to go into it. I was born and raised in Cleveland, and I've got an MBA, and I was in a totally unrelated business in finance. And I was fortunate enough that there was a leader in the business community who saw certain things in me, who invited me to lunch one day and said he was starting a commercial mortgage banking firm. He had been very successful. I left my $80,000 a year job, which back in 1986 was a lot of money for a young guy,
Sure.
And went to work for him for $25,000. My parents thought I was crazy, but it just felt right. Something told me it was the right thing to do. So sometimes you have to take a step back to move forward with the right people. And I went to work for Rothenfeld Financial Group. He asked me to move up to Michigan. I was already dating my lovely bride-to-be. And so I moved up here, and 31 years later, I started Bernard Financial Group 31 years ago. And lo and behold, we became by far and away the largest commercial mortgage banking firm in Michigan. Our footprint goes throughout the country, but especially throughout the Midwest. We do well over $1 billion a year. We're very fortunate. A lot of the true real estate players, the long-term players, the strategic thinkers, are the ones that want to access us. And we now service well over $4 billion of loans, which makes us very unique in that we service all of the permanent loans that we do business with. And we've been very fortunate to grow, and we've grown with lots of our clients, like with Farman and with several of the others, where we've started and we've grown together. So we're not just part of a group that you use, we're part of the team of these real estate guys. So boring story, but it's worked out.
That was a good story. I enjoyed that very much, and I think our listeners will. You mentioned that you were part of the team, and I think that's, for our organization, that's how we view you. When we're looking to buy an asset or we're looking to refinance, we really get with you before we even go out and talk to the market, because you are our go-to guy. You have your finger on the pulse of the finance community.
It's not uncommon for myself and our whole team of originators, underwriters, closers, servicers to spec work. We don't see it as a spec work. We see it as part of the partnership. We're there to look at acquisitions. Should you sell, or if you own, do you sell? Do we refinance? Is this a chance to renovate a building? Do we put a bridge loan on? Do we go recourse, non-recourse? We want to be part of that decision-making process with you, and we're willing to work with you, and we don't charge you for it, because in the end, if it's the right thing to do, we make money. If it's not in the best interest for you, we see it as a way that you'll value that we're giving you advice that might save you from a mistake.
And more than once in our business, that has saved us, knowing that it was not the right deal for us, finding it out through the finance world and what was available at the time. And so we do appreciate that. And while we're talking a little bit about the different parts of your organization, the service business, really the depth factor. You obviously come to us with tremendous talent, but you've also, over the years, you've built up a really good bench strength, mentoring, training, and bringing people up in your organization. So there's not a weak position in your organization. We know that whoever we're dealing with, pretty sharp people no matter what we do.
Thank you, Andy. But you know of all people, because I've seen it at Fireman, and we steal best practices from other organizations, whether it's Fireman or a Showstack Brothers or a Bedrock or any list of the other large firms or mid-sized firms we do. We steal best practices, and we've grown a lot of talent. People who've started introductory positions have grown all their way up. As you know very well, Crystal Kalinowski runs our $4 billion plus servicing business.
Fantastic.
And because we're here locally, unlike other firms who have third-party servicing, we know, and her team knows your needs, knows the market, knows that if it doesn't quite fit in the documents, we're going to help you make it fit so it works out best for the real estate, works out for the lender, works out for you. Kevin Kovacevic, who started, I remember, he was like in diapers. And I was going to say he had a full head of hair like I don't anymore, but he still has a full head of hair, but started as a junior analyst for us as a partner in the firm, and he's our spouse's joke that we talk more every day than we do to our spouses, because there's always somebody here to answer the phone, answer a question, or to tell you where the lending market is.
Oh, for sure. And just so we're clear, you have a luxurious head of hair. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. But you're talking about your servicing. That's one of the advantages we find. There's a person who understands the documents, understands the loan. We have a real conversation with a live, warm body of an individual that we don't always get in other circumstances. A lot of times servicers will say, well, no, line 17 of page 7 says this. And you'll go, yeah, but that's nonsensical in this format. Let's talk about it in
Something
real.
is always going to happen in a 5, 7, or 10-year loan that was not contemplated.
Right.
Always. That's the one given we have. There's two sureties in the world. One, something's going to happen in a 5, 7, 10-year loan,
sure.
and the other is you cannot ski through a revolving door. So what we do is by servicing the loan here and having the authority to approve leases, to modify loans, to change escrows. When a lease comes in that requires an approval and then funding of the tenant improvement or CapEx, we're able to turn that around in 7 to 10 days, where the national standard is somewhere around 45 days. So we can be much quicker. Therefore, if you did the loan with us and we're servicing, you can be more responsive. If a tenant is looking at one building or another building and they have to be in a certain period of time,
Right.
Fireman gets to react a lot quicker and can get that tenant in, up, and operating and their funds to do the build-out quicker versus someone who has a national lender who's running 45 to 60 days after us.
Yeah, and that certainly makes all the difference, because our tenants aren't patient in waiting, and a lot of times that's the difference between getting the tenant, not getting the tenant, and we all like full buildings. That helps us all out.
And I hate to say this, but when the loan documents are drafted, they're drafted by attorneys that really aren't in the day-to-day business of running the real estate, like you are and we are. So we have to have some intelligent thought, because a lot of those documents lack intelligent thought on actual everyday flexibility, and our servicing allows us to do it. There's only four other companies in the country that do what we do. We've been doing it for 26, 27 years this way, and none of them are in Michigan.
So Dennis, all kidding aside, you are here at the beautiful Class A Oakland Commons, one of the buildings Fireman's most proud of, gorgeous views surrounding, but you have a key element to your own office, your suite, that is somewhat of a differentiator. I don't think we've done too many of these over the years. Every once in a while we get them, but you have, I think it's probably a 20, 30-foot by 50-foot restroom filled with a hot tub, shower, sauna. How did that come about?
It's a funny story. When we actually moved into Oakland Commons, Fireman didn't own the building at the time. It was owned by another lender. I actually had Andy Fireman was my broker and
right.
helped get me a deal. It was owned by another building. We decided on Oakland Commons because we love the locations. There's 6 different ways you can get out of this complex, which is great, especially come rush hour in the morning or the evening, depending on where we need to go, and our employees are able to get here. So we love the location, moved into the building. We quickly outgrew our space, and by that point, Fireman Group owned the building. So Andy Fireman, you and I were arguing over our space, our rent, our whatever. So Andy Farman and I went out to play golf. And we decided we were equal golfers. We were playing 18 holes, and I was demanding that he put in this luxurious bathroom. And we played 18 holes to see who would pay for it. It was like two big egos clashing with each other. And on the 17th hole, I dropped a 4-foot double break downhill putt that if it didn't go in the hole, would have gone off the green. I would have had to pay for it. And in the end, he was a man of his word, and I built like a Ritz-Carlton Four Seasons bathroom in our office space, which I show everybody that a commercial construction firm, the Farbans were able to build out.
That's fantastic. And my understanding is when Andy's in town, he won't even use the restroom at our own building. He just comes by here and stops in with his toothbrush and uses your restroom. Is that true?
He has his own towel.
Okay, that's great. Dennis, obviously a hot topic right now is LIBOR that is being phased out, and I know for myself, I was brought up by a gentleman who was from England and would always tell me LIBOR is the true interest rate. It was always the most accurate depiction of what interest rates should be. Tell me, first of all, you want to talk a little bit about what happened with LIBOR and what's going on now and in the future with loan documents that use LIBOR as their method of calculating interest rates.
That's a great question, and this is what makes Dennis a dull boy. I do find this fascinating, and it really is. LIBOR is become the standard in the last 15 years, 20 years, the standard of how floating rate lenders price. And they price over the 30, 60, or 90-day LIBOR. It's published out of London. And for the first 20 years, it was a true market fluctuation. And in many ways, it was much better than prime, and it was even better than the U.S. Treasuries because the Federal Reserve would manipulate Treasuries. But coming out of the Great Recession, LIBOR started the way it was done. It's a compilation of where interest rates and demands are of London banks. And what they started to do was manipulate it. And they manipulated for the bank's own purposes to keep LIBOR low. So it was fundamentally low. And why is this important? It's important because there's still a tremendous amount of lending that's priced over LIBOR. And London has announced, the equivalent of England's Fed, has announced that in 2021 they are going to eliminate LIBOR. And in everybody's loan documents, if you look really carefully within those 100 pages, it says that the lending institution, if LIBOR is no longer available, has the right to tag your spread and your interest rate to another base lending rate. And that's going to be higher. It's going to be higher because everybody's now upset and believes that over the last 5-6 years that LIBOR was artificially low by as much as 100 or 150 basis points. Wow. So you're going to see an increase, and your spread will increase, and the banks have the right in most of these documents to price it over whatever base standard there is out there. And as of now, there's no standard. Right. So we're going to see something in the next 4 years evolve to what it will be. But everybody is in agreement on two things. One, they don't know what it'll be, right. And two, they have an agreement it's going to be higher. So if your loan was based off that, this is time to start looking at your documents, and we sweat those documents, or looking at fixed rate lending so you can get past 2021, 2022, and 2023 until we have a new stabilized market benchmark. This is going to be a huge issue.
Is there anything people can do, when you're taking out a loan other than fixing their rate? Is there anything they can do in their loan documents to protect themselves?
Recent loan we did with you, Andy, you were the one, you were real smart about it. You put in reasonability language so that the lender has to be reasonable, and they can't do it without 100% cooperation with you as a borrower. That was intelligent. It doesn't give you all the protection, but it gives you more protection than you would have had, and it gives you a heck of a lot more protection than some of the other people who are not building that reasonable level into their documents. But you need to have triggers that if the benchmark is artificially higher and does this or does that, so documentation, and that really comes from negotiation, is going to be important.
Very helpful. And by the way, thank you for calling me intelligent. I've never had anyone do that before. So
I've never been able to do that to you before.
Never have.
Right.
So fantastic. It's a good thing it's being recorded. Dennis, before we go, I know everybody who's listening is going to say, first of all, what services can I call Dennis Bernard for, and how do I get a hold of him? What's the best way to do that? So can you give us a short spiel about what services and how do they get you?
Thank you, Andy. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Because we do most of the large players in town and in Michigan, we also have a group that handles smaller loans. We do loans as low as $750,000. We have two people who do nothing but $750,000 to $7 million loans. We have a whole slew of lenders. We represent close to 25 national lenders. Some of them deal with small loans. Some of them deal with multi-tenant, single-tenant. Some of them deal with long-term leases, credit tenant lease loans. Some of them do just large loans. So we have a whole cornucopia of kind of loan programs. So we encourage anybody who's doing commercial real estate to reach out for us, and we'll get you the right people on our staff. And people that local servicing is important to. And I can't imagine in a 5, 7, or 10-year loan why that wouldn't be important. That's what we do. Best way to reach us, give us a call at 248-799-9200. And we'll get you to the right person. You can always ask for me, or you can also go on our website, www.bernardfinancial.com.
Wonderful. Dennis, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate your time. For the Farbman Group, I'm Andy Gutman, here with
Dennis Bernard
for Real Estate of Mind. Join us next time for another wonderful edition of Real Estate of Mind, a Farbman Group podcast.